February 24th, 2025, Portland, Oregon. It was supposed to be a normal Monday. The kind of day where you make a quick list, grab your keys, and head to the grocery store without thinking twice. I had maybe 15 items on my list. Milk, eggs, some canned soup, a loaf of bread. Nothing special, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I was tired from work, a little distracted, and honestly just wanted to get home, make dinner, and call it a night. The Safeway on Morrison Street was quieter than usual for a Monday evening, and I remember thinking how nice it was to shop without the usual weekend. Crowd pushing carts into your heels. I grabbed a basket instead of a cart because I was sure I wouldn't need much. That small decision, choosing a basket over a cart, meant I would walk closer to the shelves, slower through the aisles, and that is the only reason any of what happened next was even possible. I was standing in the cereal aisle, staring blankly at a shelf of oatmeal boxes and trying to remember whether I already had some at home, when I felt a light tap on my shoulder. I turned around and there stood a woman, maybe in her early 60s, with silver hair pulled back, loosely, and kind eyes that looked like they had seen a great deal of life. She was holding a small basket of her own, just a few things inside, and she looked at me with an expression I can only describe as recognition mixed with something deeper, relief, maybe, or gratitude. She said softly, "I know you." I stared at her for a moment, genuinely confused, because I was fairly certain I had never seen her before in my life. I gave her a polite smile and said, "I'm sorry, I don't think we've met." She shook her head gently and said, "You wouldn't remember me, but I remember you." She introduced herself as Margaret. She told me that about 3 years ago, on a cold February morning, she had been sitting on a bench outside a coffee shop, about 6 blocks from where we were standing right now. She had been going through the worst period of her life. Her husband of 31 years had passed away just 2 months before. She had lost her job shortly after due to downsizing. Her children lived in different states, and she had been feeling utterly alone in a city that suddenly felt foreign and indifferent. She told me she had reached a point where she was genuinely unsure whether she wanted to keep going. She was sitting on that bench, not because she was waiting for anyone, but because she didn't know where else to go. She wasn't crying. She was just sitting there completely still, watching people walk by and feeling invisible. And then, she said, someone sat down next to her. That someone, she told me with quiet certainty, was me. I searched my memory and I could not place it at all. She described what I was wearing, a dark green jacket, a grey scarf, and slowly, very slowly, a foggy morning came back to me. I had been running early for a meeting and had stopped to sit for a few minutes and drink my coffee. I remembered a woman on the bench. I remembered thinking she looked sad. What I did not remember as anything significant was what apparently changed everything for her. She said I had simply looked over at her, smiled, and said, "Good morning. It's a cold one, isn't it?" She had nodded. And then I had said, almost as an afterthought before getting up to leave, "I hope your day gets a little warmer." She said those words, those simple, throwaway words that I had completely forgotten, had stopped something inside her. She said it was the first time in weeks that a stranger had acknowledged her existence. She said it reminded her in that small and quiet way that she was still visible. Still here. Still a person worth a good morning and a kind wish. She went home that day, she told me, and called her daughter for the first time in months. That phone call led to a visit. That visit led to her moving closer to family, finding a new job, slowly rebuilding a life that she had been ready to walk away from. She stood in front of me in that grocery store aisle with tears in her eyes and said, "I never thought I'd find you, but I always wanted to say thank you. You probably don't even remember it, but you saved my life." I stood there completely speechless, holding a box of oatmeal I didn't even need, feeling the weight of something I could never have anticipated. I thought about how many mornings I had rushed past people on benches, eyes down, coffee in hand, locked inside my own world of meetings and to-do lists. I thought about how that one morning, for no particular reason, I had simply looked up and said hello. I had not done anything heroic. I had not volunteered or donated or gone out of my way. I had just treated a stranger like a human being for about 30 seconds, and somehow that had been enough. Margaret and I stood there talking for nearly 20 minutes. She showed me a photo on her phone of her grandchildren. Born after that winter, lives that exist in part because she chose to stay. We exchanged numbers before parting ways, and as I watched her walk toward the checkout, I felt something shift in how I understood the weight of ordinary moments. We spend so much of our lives waiting to do something meaningful, waiting for the right time, the right cause, the right opportunity to make a difference. But Margaret's story reminded me that meaning doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it is a bench on a cold morning. Sometimes it is 2 seconds of eye contact and a sentence you will forget by the time you reach your car. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can offer another person is the simple, radical act of seeing them. I drove home that night differently than I had driven to the store. I thought about every person I would encounter the next day. The cashier,
the co-worker,
the stranger waiting at the crosswalk. And I made a quiet promise to myself to look up more often, to say good morning like I meant it, to remember that I almost never know what someone else is carrying, and that kindness costs me nothing but could mean everything to them. If Margaret's story moved you the way it moved me, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know who in your life is sitting on a bench, waiting for someone to look up. If this story touched your heart, please show your love and support by giving a thumbs up, sharing this with your friends and family, and subscribing to our channel Kindness True Stories, where every story is a reminder that humanity is still alive and beautiful. Your support means the world and helps us keep sharing stories that matter.